Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to Newsroom. I'm your host, Khalid. But today is the 16th of May 2024, and these are the stories that we will be highlighting in the course of our show. On the invitation of the member of the Political Bureau of the Central Committee of the Communist Party of China and the Minister of Foreign Affairs of China, Wang Yi, Deputy Prime Minister and Minister for Foreign Affairs, Senator Mohammad ishaqdar, has visited China from the 13th of May, and his visit ends tonight. On the 15th, that was yesterday, both ishaqdar Sahab and Mr. Wang Yi co-chaired the 5th round of the China-Pakistan Foreign Ministers' Strategic Dialogue in Beijing. A lot of important points emanated from the joint statement that was taken out at the end of that meeting. Also, the foreign minister has also met with many important other leaders, like the finance minister, like the head of the Exim Bank and others. We'll be highlighting different aspects of this relationship between China and Pakistan and how that can further be bettered and strengthened, especially in the field of CPEC, where of course Mr. Wang Yi has said that the CPEC will be upgraded. So what kind of upgrade are we looking at as far as CPEC is concerned? That and more will be discussed in our first segment. Our second story concerns the day 223 of the Israel-Palestine conflict. As we speak, heavy fighting continues in the Jabalia camp. The Israeli forces have targeted the big buildings and the ambulances as well, and nothing new there. They have destroyed hospitals, they've destroyed educational institutions and whatnot, and the world still is not doing the necessary. Israeli tanks, bulldozers and armed vehicles have surrounded evacuation zones and shelters in Jabalia as well. They also jetted a house in Nusayrat, a refugee camp in central Gaza, killing 14 Palestinians, including children. Not the first time, and I don't think it will be the last time either. In the north of Gaza also, the battle rages between Palestinians and Israel. The International Rescue Committee saying the scale of the crisis defies imagination. That and more will be discussed in our second story. Then we are going to talk about the Slovak Prime Minister, Robertfico, who is still in a very serious but stable condition. This has been confirmed by a hospital official, since he was shot 5 times in an assassination attempt that laid bare deep political divisions in the country. That is what has been said, that this shooting on the Prime Minister was politically motivated. We will be highlighting that. Then we will be talking about age being no barrier for a female sprinter who is 90 years of age, and I repeat, 90 years of age. A lot of people here in Pakistan are on their beds and don't want to move at 90. But look at this woman who still sprints at the age of 90. Emma Maria Mazenga is her name. Then finally, ladies and gentlemen, we'll be talking about the ancient Algerian game of kora. Now, it has been played for 5 centuries and has been passed down from father to son in 2 main tribes, that is the Beni Mesra and the Hilali. Every spring they come together, and this is the spring season, once a week to play 7 games in the mountains, Christie, of course, and this is played by the men of both tribes. One team represents the sun, the other the rain, and the 2 players believe the winning team determines whether the weeks ahead will be filled with rain or sun. What an interesting way to know whether it will be raining or will it be sunny. Well, this is going to be our last story. Let's begin with our first, and that concerns China-Pakistan. It's a friendship, it's bond that is strengthening with every passing day. And we have our Deputy Prime Minister and the Minister for Foreign Affairs, Mohammad ishaqdar, who is in China, and he will be ending his trip today. But he has met with many important personalities, including his counterpart, who had invited him, in fact, in the first place, to hold the 5th round of this strategic dialogue between the foreign ministers of both countries. He also met with the finance minister. He also met with different important members of the Chinese society. And a lot of important elements form part of the statement that was taken out at the end of the strategic meeting between both the sides. We have been joined by Dr. Hassan Daud, but he's a former CPEC project director, and he joins us right here in the studios to discuss more about that. Thank you very much, Dr. Hassan Daud, to have joined us. Let's begin very, very quickly. We have lots to discuss. I, as in my invitation, said that Mr. Wang Yi invited ishaqdar Sahab to China for the 5th round of the strategic dialogue between both the countries. That dialogue was held yesterday. A huge, strong, worded, multifaceted statement was taken out at the end. And my this part of the show will be dedicated to that statement and a bit more as well. But when you look at the entire range of bilateral relations and cooperation that were discussed, whether it be strategic, economic, political, defense, security, trade, investment, commerce, culture, people-to-people domains, all of that was talked about. How do you feel as a Pakistani, the relations that currently exist between both the countries, and how and in which manner can they be further strengthened?
Yeah, thank you very much. I think this visit is happening at a very critical time. And in your introduction, I think you spoke about 4 topics, and 3 of them were about geopolitics and how geopolitics is straining the overall relationship between countries. And in amongst all the things that are happening in Gaza, also Russia-Ukraine crisis, I think the way that China has held its diplomacy and the way that China has steered its relationship not just with Russia but also with Ukraine and rest of the countries, I think this is a lesson for all of us. And therefore, the visit of our foreign minister to Pakistan is important because his counterpart, Mr. Wang Yi, has been steering all this under the leadership of President Xi. Mr. Wang Yi is known for his pragmatism, his very proactive foreign relations and diplomacy that he does, and he's been doing this over a year. And this is his second tenure as the foreign minister. Similarly, ishaqdar Saab is a seasoned politician. He represents the government, and I think when he goes there, this will also set the stage for the Prime Minister's visit to China, which will happen perhaps next month. So I think in this time when we see a lot of activities, campaigns against globalization, restrictions being imposed on trade, because one of the areas that they have discussed is trade and investment. I think more restrictions are coming. Countries are not talking to each other in the way that they should have spoken, especially after post-COVID environment when the challenges are increasing. The world is under a lot of stress because of climate change. So therefore, we need to synergize, and I think the statement encourages us to believe that the CPEC phase 2 is going to be more stronger, more faster, and I think will be on sustainable ground as always.
All right, now let's begin with talk on the joint statement.
Yeah.
International regional issues of shared interest are discussed. Both sides reach a consensus to collectively take measures to safeguard their common interest, promote the socio-economic development of the people of both sides, work together to promote peace, development and prosperity of the region, enhance exchanges at all levels, deepen experience sharing in state governance, and further enhance win-win cooperation of all areas, and also accelerate the building of an ever closer Pakistan-China community with a shared future in the new era. Are we entering a new chapter as far as Pakistan-China relations are concerned? How important is this resolve? And this is just part of it.
I think we are not entering a new era. We are further strengthening the existing ties. And I think we've been speaking about higher than mountains, deeper than ocean, and slogans around that. But I think CPEC was one milestone which from geopolitics and from just relationship on a diplomatic front, we entered into economic front also, and developed partnership not just in one sector, from energy to infrastructure, and one of the most important area which will be under a lot of scrutiny also will be the socio-economic development under CPEC and the joint working group under CPEC. I think before this visit, Ambassador Lu, who is the chairman of SITCA, the USAID equivalent of China, he visited Pakistan. He discussed certain projects, including the Gwadar Airport project, which is also the largest grant project of China in any part of the world. So I think they want to further strengthen that. They are looking at Pakistan as a country which is at a crossroad of economic development and prosperity. We are taking measures through SIFC and certain other incentives and initiatives which can promote and create that enabling environment where investment can flow to Pakistan. So I think from the standpoint of diplomatic relationship to the economic partnership, I think we are looking at not just further strengthening the relation, but also looking at some of the challenges. And one of the challenge I think they must have spoken about must be the security
of the Chinese
because there was a recent incident in Dasu and in March, and of course when such incident happen, we have to go back to the drawing board, look at how things can be further improved as far as the safety of our brothers and sisters who are coming to Pakistan, contributing to our economic development. So I think a host of areas
and I think assurances have also been given by the Pakistanis.
Of course, they have to be, because not just because we need China on the economic front, we have a history of relationship. They have contributed to development of KKH, and now they are working on development on the industrial cooperation phase, agriculture, science and technology, and all these areas are there, but also our long lasting friendship which is existing. And I think not just on the economic front, but also on the diplomatic front, not just in Pakistan, but also on the global arena of United Nations, where Pakistan has been supported. Even in FATF, when Pakistan had challenges, China was there to support us. And I think we should, on our part, from Pakistani people, and one of the areas people to people interaction,
yes.
I think we should understand this relationship, especially the younger generation. They should understand the strength of this relationship. It's not just we are working with China, there are neighbors, and also there are strong neighbors, second largest economy of the world and growing, factory of the world. I think for us, for the younger generation, and for us all of to understand how important these dialogues, this interaction. And I have always been advocating, I'm sorry for the longish answer.
No, please go.
I have always been advocating that people to people interaction at the leadership level, and even at the academia level, professionals, industrialists, they need to talk. We need to establish more forums where such interactions can take place, because leader can just give you a roadmap. Actual implementation has to come through the bureaucracy, through academia, through business chambers, and I think this has to grow. I think the visit of the Prime Minister, which will happen soon, is extremely important. As I said, the Foreign Minister was there. Just before him, the Planning Minister was there, and they were talking about areas like ML1, which can be a transformational project for Pakistan, not just in terms of economic impact that it would have, but also in terms of generating more tourism, movement of people, interacting, and we are not just living. Tim Marshall said in his book in Power of Geography that countries which have good geography, good human resource, large human resource, and also regional connectivity will become the champions of the world in future. So I think in that aspect, initiatives like CPEC, Belt and Road Initiative, Global Development Initiative, Global Security Initiative that China is talking about, I think all of this and more is coming our way, and we should be ready to realize the challenge and the opportunity.
And I think the realization of the challenge is more important than realizing the possibility. Wang Yi also talks about China's 8 major steps to support high quality Belt and Road cooperation and to forge an upgraded version of the CPEC by jointly building a growth corridor, a livelihood enhancing corridor, an innovation corridor, a green corridor, an open corridor, and also aligning them with Pakistan's development framework and priorities. More or less the same thing was also said in the meeting between the Chinese Vice Premier Ding Xuishang with Mr. Ishaqdar, in which he also said China was willing to maintain high level strategic communication with Pakistan and ensure the CPEC's development was high quality. How robust should this CPEC upgradation be?
You see, in the last 5 years and more, China has demonstrated that they are taking the leadership role as far as the global climate change challenges are concerned. Also, they speaking about Global Development Initiative, which speaks about green transition for countries which do not have the resources to make that bold step. Like Pakistan, we were impacted by floods in 2022, and China was there. Even in COVID, we did not have the resources to provide the kind of protection gear that was required to protect large amount of number of people. So China was there to support us. So through these initiatives, China is looking at projects, because China has announced that they would not invest in any coal-based projects in future. They will invest in projects which are green, which can create a better livelihood, and of course, besides this, the Chinese model in itself, which has taken so many people out of poverty, which is unprecedented in human history, 800 million and more, and the way that China has actually informed the rest of the world that how in 3 decades countries can become global economic leader from the lowest level of poverty. And I think we can learn a lot. Besides these projects, I think this interaction that we spoke about, the quality development of CPEC in next phase, because we need more yield in agriculture, we need more science and technology to actually take the challenges that we spoke about. Even in security, we need science and technology to provide us that enabling environment which can help undertake these security challenges, because you just can't put people around every corners, because these roads where projects are being undertaken like Dasu, Diamir Bhasha, they are remote areas, and you need technology to safeguard these projects, because you just can't have a fortress around that. You need technology and surveillance. So and beyond that, the other front that we are looking at is of course the industrial cooperation through SCGs. We need, because in next 10 to 15 years there will be lot of policies which would restrict development if you are not green.
Because this is also what Mr. Wangi said. He has talked about both sides to effectively implementing the framework agreement on industrial cooperation, strengthening our cooperation in areas like industry, agriculture, mining, new energy and information technology.
You know, we have framework agreement in agriculture, we have framework agreement in industrial cooperation. It's just its implementation and continuity of policy that is required. You know, it's not just that one government comes and
that is very important.
And this is what is the challenge for any country or any investor which is coming from outside. They need continuity of policy, they need sustainability in what we say, and also whatever incentives that we offer, we should be ready to actually provide that. We have had challenges in the energy sector, we have had challenges in other sectors where investment had to actually, and SIFC came was being established only because of the fact that other organizations could not take that challenge of providing the enabling environment. So I think besides SIFC, each of the organization which is involved in green transition, which is involved in industrialization, which is involved in commerce and trade, and which is involved in people to people interaction. The social, I think they need to build up their capacity, learn from China, and I think engage more openly in a dialogue with investors who are already in Pakistan. I think we should first build their confidence so that they become our ambassadors in China and attract more investment coming to Pakistan.
All right. Now, Dr. Saab, the Chinese Vice Premier also Ding Xuexing in his meeting with ishaqdar noted, of course, the progress under the CPEC made in the realms of energy and infrastructure. But he also talked about the Khunjerab Pass. He says efforts should be made to ensure that the Khunjerab Pass functions all year round. He also talks about a simplified visa regime. How can these avenues be further simplified, streamlined?
We've been speaking about year-long opening up of Khunjerab Pass. You know, major portion of the year there's snow, there's landsliding, and there are other challenges. Transportation challenges, VBOC challenges, you know, because you need connectivity. You know, under the 5 pillars of BRI, including the seamless trade, connectivity of policy, people to people interaction, all this requires that we understand how we can address and connect ourselves with the technology of the countries with whom we are doing trade with. So for that to happen, I think what the statement coming out of Chinese leadership is very clear. We need to create infrastructure, climate resilient infrastructure, which can help us enhance our trade with China. Because China, as I said, is the factory of the world. If we connect ourselves with the supply chain of China, I think our economic development and the promises around that economic development, the manifestos around that economic development can be realized much faster and much easier. We need to build our infrastructure not just on the KKH, but all the way towards Gawadar. And the Prime Minister recently announced the development of Gawadar port, its opening. So I think not just on the northern part where Khunjerab lies, also on the southern part where Gawadar exists, we need to look at solutions. Gawadar airport is about to be operationalized. And I think when that happens, there will be more traffic. So this is the time that Pakistan should be ready, preparing itself for the traffic that can come from China and also from Middle East. We are talking about through SIFC and other platform, we are talking about investment coming from China. And I think one of the areas where the foreign ministries of both sides are working on is the third party participation under CPEC. Where investment can come, because we can set up these special economic zones. China can help us bring the one window technology. What we need is partnership coming from not just China, but also from Middle East and rest of the world. And for that to happen, I think visits like these and statements like these are very assuring, because they give us the understanding that yes, China and Pakistan are together.
And on the same page.
And on the same page and working in the same direction. And sometimes I say, and I say this to my students mostly, that it does not matter how fast you are moving, as long as you are moving in the right direction. I think we are moving in the right direction. We have had several challenges, including COVID-19. We have, the world is now opening up. The narrative around investment, the foreign direct investment, the sentiments around foreign direct investment and regional cooperation is getting better. I think we see a promising 2024 and beyond. I think Pakistan now should work on establishing policies, improving the infrastructure which is required, and perhaps looking at CPEC phase 2, which promises so much, and not just for you and me, I think for the younger generation, which will be actually benefiting from that.
All right, thank you so very much, Dr. Hassan Daud, former CPEC project director, to have joined us. I had so much more that I had wanted to discuss with you, but of course we are short of time. But a lot has been discussed in this two-way strategic dialogue between the two sides, and it's just not relegated to CPEC, but of course they talk about banking and fiscal cooperation, they talk about space exploration and cooperation. We've seen how
maybe another program for that.
Yes, I think we'll need another program, and it's also how both the sides and are backing each other on different regional issues as well. I think that is also very important for understanding each other and also being as one. You know, these two countries seem to be as one on important issues, regional, global, as well as for each other. And I think in this day and age, this is a very important development as far as Pakistan's relations with China is concerned.
Well, Omar, I just have one last statement to make, and I think we in Pakistan and Chinese, they understand, and we speak about Bati, the iron friendship. What rest of the world is also need to understand the relationship between China. We are neighbors, we are working on economic cooperation, and I think they should let us work on this path of economic glory, which because of the large size population we have, and there's huge promises that can be made through CPEC and through relationship between two countries.
Before you go, I'd just like to, now that we are talking a little bit, counter-terrorism, security cooperation was also discussed, you know, and this was also because of the safety of the Chinese personnel, and the assurances were given by the Pakistani side that there is a commitment to combat terrorism in all its forms and manifestations with a zero tolerance attitude. Could Pakistan join China strengthen joint counter-terrorism operations to stabilize the region, in your take?
I think more important is to share technologies, and the technologies that China can offer to Pakistan to combat terrorism. You know, we need friends and partners like China to support us in that. The challenge is growing, but I think the resolve to address the challenge is also growing. I think in Islamabad and also in Beijing, they're looking at areas and avenues through which we can actually combat this.
All right, so looking forward to many more good things coming from this Pak-China cooperation, and we look forward to more interactions with you as well. Thank you very much, Dr. Hassan Daud, former CPEC project director, to have joined us for this. Let's come to our second story, ladies and gentlemen, and that concerns day 223 of the Israel-Palestine tensions, war, genocide, ethnic cleansing. Whether the US accepts it or not, it is in fact a genocide. Heavy fighting is continuing in Jabalia, where Israeli forces have targeted residential buildings and an ambulance. Israeli tanks, bulldozers and armored vehicles have surrounded evacuation zones and shelters there. Israeli jets have also bombed a house in Nusayrat refugee camp in central Gaza, which has killed 14 Palestinians, including children. Also in Gaza's north, battle is raging between the Palestinian groups and Israel. And there's rocket fire and IEDs that are being used. International Rescue Committee says the scale of the crisis defies imagination in southern Gaza. Israeli ground forces invade Rafah, and mass displacement leaves people in need of food and water. A major fissure also is appearing in Israel's war cabinet. and it is exposed because of Defense Minister Gallant challenging Prime Minister Netanyahu's unspecified plans for post-war Gaza. And also, if you look at the casualties, 35,000 plus people, 35,272 people, as we've last heard, have perished, have been killed, butchered by the Israeli side, while 79,205 at least have been wounded in Israeli attacks on Gaza since the 7th of October. This is not counting those who are still buried under the rubble, the scores of people. And when this war comes to an end, we don't know what the actual casualty numbers will be like. We've been joined by two guests to talk about that. In the studios, we've been joined by Naveed Ahmed Khan Sahab. He's a senior analyst. Naveed Sahab, thank you very much to have joined us. And online, we'll be joined by Usama Muhammad Nazal. He's a Palestinian journalist. Usama, thank you very much to have joined us as well. Let's begin with Naveed Sahab. Naveed Sahab, Abdul Fattah al-Sisi, whose country mediated in the truce talks between both the Israeli and Palestinian sides, says Israel continues to evade responsibility and efforts to reach a ceasefire with the Palestinian side. He was speaking at the Arab League summit that is happening in Manama, which is Bahrain's capital. Bahrain's king also calls for an international Middle East peace conference at the start of the Arab League summit, and he says that we need to support a full recognition of the state of Palestine and accept its membership in the United Nations. Qatar's Prime Minister also recently, when he was speaking at Qatar's Economic Forum, said ceasefire talks are deadlocked. Israel's Operation Rafah has sent things backwards. What is going to happen as far as these talks is concerned?
I think the situation is worsened during the last 7 months. It should have come to some very concrete solution in the first month or the second month maximum, because the devastation is the devastation toll is too big. More than 35,000 innocent Palestinians are perished, more than 79 or 80,000 are seriously injured, and many more are still under the debris, and nobody knows where those people have gone. And the toll may rise to more 20 to 30,000 exactly. As far as the talks are concerned, on many forums and on many occasions, the Arab League or OIC and the Muslim countries have struggled a lot for the ceasefire or the solution of the issue, but not yet reached the solution as it should have. The reason being, in fact, America continuously is patting the shoulders of Israel. And Netanyahu himself, for the sake of his survival, political survival, he is not ready to forego. He is not ready to go, leave his stance. I think the most important statement is of the Defense Minister of Israel, who Mr. Gallant, who has differed from the point of view of
and this is showing a huge division in the war cabinet of Israel, because Gallant says that there is no post-war vision of Gaza.
Definitely. Netanyahu is facing two sort of differences and opposition from within the Israeli community. Number one, from the Israeli population or the citizens of Israel, they are opposing Netanyahu's point of view of continuous continual attacks to Gaza or even Rafah. Number two, within the cabinet of Netanyahu, Gallant is his defense minister, and he has very clearly, categorically opposed the stance and the point of view of Netanyahu of post-war occupation of Israel in Palestine. I think it is very wise decision or very wise advice of Gallant. It makes some sense that you cannot continue that occupation on a state which is recognized and acknowledged state, and Palestine is an acknowledged state, and Israel.
And now more and more countries are also acknowledging and accepting.
Day by day, they are being acknowledged on United Nations forums, and recently the stance and the political position of Palestine has gone to that stronger level on international fronts. I think the struggle of the Egyptian president or the Bahrain government or the Qatar government needs to be lauded. They have made a lot of efforts. The thing is this, that they can be the efforts will be fruitful when I think the American stance, clear stance comes out.
All right.
I mean, America is not. America is just engaging the Palestine or the Arab countries or Israel with dialogues, and on the other hand, America is providing weapons and providing that aid to Israel. I mean, it's double game. So if you are very serious and sincere for the solution of the Middle East, you need to have one way, which is a way to peace. And the way to peace is to stop Israel for any longer attacks on Palestine and rebuild and rehabilitate, the Palestinians and, provide that sort of support to the Palestine or Palestinians.
But a lot of question marks also are surrounding these very eventualities or future steps that could or would or should be taken by Israel. Now, the International Court of Justice, Naveed Saab, is holding a public hearing over the extra emergency measures brought by South Africa against Israel's attack on Rafah during its war on Gaza. It's about to begin, or it is happening as we are speaking right now. This has been made on the request by South Africa for additional emergency measures. Also, South Africa's Minister for Social Development says the country is returning to the organization where it will ask for these measures because it cannot leave its job undone as Israel's attacks intensify in the enclave's last refuge. This is going to be the fourth request by South Africa for provisional measures. At the end of January, they were successful in getting an order. Then they again obtained an additional order late in March. And, I should applaud South Africa for the way they are going to the International Court of Justice to highlight the atrocities that have been perpetrated by Israel. What could be expected?
I mean, it is, as you have said, that the role of South Africa is wonderful in this regard. The South African minister has, fulfilled that expectation, which, we even were not expecting from any other country. Yes, that lady has made a remarkable gesture and bringing or steering Israel in the Court of Justice. And in that Court of Justice, the war crimes are being discussed. And Netanyahu is being declared a war criminal. So on those charges, Netanyahu will be sentenced. I think the International Court of Justice is a very influential forum, and that forum will once decides. If no matter he remains in the government, but the symbolic importance of that judgment will be very important. Yes.
And also the fact is that the way the International Court of Justice has responded to the South African request is quite unusual, because they have never responded with the same kind of urgency before, which shows that the court is also taking this as a very, very serious matter, which also shows indirectly that the world is extremely concerned at what is happening in Palestine.
Enough is enough. The International Court of Justice or United Nations or in Europe or even the response of South Africa, continual backing of this case to International Court of Justice by South Africa, and again the response of the students of American universities is wonderful. They have shown significance and they have shown their concern, and that pressure is mounting within America or within Europe and within Israel. Today, New York City University, on the walls of the New York City University, banner is displayed in favor of Palestine or the Palestinian struggle, or to end that war which is being waged on Palestine by Israel.
Naveed Saab, that is showing it's just not the United States of America, it's Australia, it's the United Kingdom,
everywhere
it's France,
in the world.
Many countries in the world have their major universities and their students in those universities protesting against this attitude of Israel and its allies. And this is a movement we have never seen before, but this is also genocide that we have not seen before. In fact, more or less, it comes to the level of what happens in the Second World War. Not to the same extent, but it is steadily developing at the same level. Now, when you look at the number of casualties, also 35,272, I said in
more
the
than
very beginning,
35,000.
79,000 have been wounded. At least 39 people have been killed in the last 24 hours, whether it be Jabalia, whether it be Nusairat camp, whether it be Khan Yunus, whether it be other areas, and this continues. Then we have also the Rafah crossing that is blocked, and the aid not coming, and the people who are displacing themselves, and that is causing further agony to the people. The atrocities continue, and they continue and continue. To what end will they continue in your point of view?
Omar, if you send the aid to Palestine and you continue bombardment on the Palestinians, I mean, it makes no sense. It is a double, game. Either you continue bombardment or you stop it. And America can play a very important role for this double game. They will have to ask Israel to stop that bombardment any longer. I mean, it's 7 months have gone, and there's no that sort of response from Palestine towards Israel as long as the casualties are concerned in Israel. So I think it makes some sense that if you have started sending that aid to Palestine, very fine. On the other hand, you need to ask Israel to stop it, to come to some conclusion. Exchange of refugees should be there, hostages should be there, and a concrete truce, a concrete ceasefire should be declared and announced any longer.
All right. Naveed Saab, I'd like to just give some quotes as far as the dire situation of the people in Palestine is concerned. The International Rescue Committee says the scale of the crisis defies imagination in southern Gaza. It is nearly impossible to distribute aid within Gaza, where more than 1.7 million people are displaced, says the United Nations Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs, otherwise known as OCHA. The main Rafah crossing, as we know, on the border with Egypt is now seized by the military of Israel and has been completely shuttered since the 8th of May, cutting the only evacuation route for the injured Palestinians who are in need for medical treatment. Not the first time things like this have happened, but the intensity with which all of this is happening is adding to the atrocities of the people who are in dire need of aid, food, water, medical supplies, and those who are injured cannot even now cross the border to go anywhere. Isn't now the time when the West and Israel's allies should put a stop to Israel's offensive attitude and say, enough is enough, and we need to now at least take care of those injured, have the necessary food, water arrive at the right places the right day before we see more deaths because of starvation, because of disease. Shouldn't it be the responsibility of the West and the Israeli allies?
Definitely, it is the responsibility of West and America and all those Israeli allies who are continuously supporting Israel against Palestine or innocent Palestinians. They need to come out now and have concrete discussions with Israel, and I think definitely not only with Israel but also with the Palestinian authorities as well, so that they should also have concrete or compact agreement of peace, of bringing peace in the region. And peace is the only solution of the problem. Ultimately they will have to come to that peace matter, and that peace can be brought just after the dialogues. And these concrete dialogues are the need of the time. America now needs to play its important role for the solution of the Middle Eastern issue. Otherwise, the implication is the Joe Biden regime, I think, he is going to contest elections very soon in November, and I'm sure he will face very, very serious opposition from the Americans from within the American states, and he will be in trouble because of Israeli or
well, that Naveed Saab only time will tell. Let's hope that we don't have to wait till November for this atrocity to continue, that this ends, the ceasefire happens, and that we move towards a two-state solution and an end once and for all for what Israel has been doing since 1948. Thank you very much to have joined us, Naveed Ahmad Khan Saab. It was a pleasure having you in the studios. Let's come to our last three stories very quickly. The first concerns the Slovakian Prime Minister Fico, whose fate remains in balance still after surgery. This has been also confirmed by the Deputy Prime Minister. Robert Fico was in a very serious state but stable condition. He was shot 5 times in an assassination attempt that laid bare deep political divisions in the country, and it has also been confirmed that this shooting was politically motivated. The Deputy Prime Minister says doctors had managed to stabilize the Prime Minister's condition overnight and procedures were underway to secure further improvement. The Prime Minister's condition remains very serious, even though it is stable, and he was shot 5 times in the central town of Handlova on Wednesday after he left a government meeting, and as I told you, he underwent many surgeries. The alleged attacker is a 71-year-old writer and former security guard. He has been charged with attempted murder, but we will only see how things are going to happen and both forward. Secondly, let's come to age that is no barrier for a 90-year-old female sprinter. The fact is that when you have the will, you always have a way. With the oldest population in the EU, where 1 in 4 are aged over 65, it's little surprise that Italy is home now to the fastest 90-year-old woman sprinter. She is Emma Maria Mazenga, who claimed another world record in the 90 and over age group this month when she ran the 200 meters outdoors in 51.47 seconds. She was born on the 1st of August in 1933, and she is one of the unsung stars of Italian athletics, currently holding 5 world records, 9 European records, and 28 best Italian performances in various categories of master sprinting. That is the zeal, that is the passion. Finally, ladies and gentlemen, an ancient game of kora is now being played in Algeria. The kora game has been played for 5 centuries, has been passed from father to son in 2 tribes, that is the Beni Mesra and the Hilali tribe. Now, every spring they come together once a week to play 7 games in the mountains. This is played by men of both these tribes every spring. One team represents the sun, the other team represents the rain. The players believe that the winning team determines whether the weeks ahead will be filled with rain or sun. It's interesting because a game, this is the first time I'm hearing that a game can predict whether it's going to be sunny or rainy in the coming days. I hope we could have something like that in Pakistan to also predict the weather patterns which are so unstable because of climate change. With that, ladies and gentlemen, we come to an end of today's newsroom. We'll see you inshallah tomorrow with new story segments that pertain to us, you in Pakistan. Stay safe. Allah Hafiz.